Love and light, friends. Coming at you today from Durham, North Carolina. Thought we would talk about the Earth a little bit today. Is it flat? Is it round? Not that that really matters so much, but it is nice when you get pieces of the puzzle put in place so that you can begin to see the big picture that you're creating with all of the pieces. So I don't have this completely straight because this is, as you probably well know yourself, getting the big picture, a clear view of the big picture, is quite a task because there's so many layers to everything. And not only that, we've had so many layers of misinformation and disinformation placed on top of everything. So just starting with the Earth, from my understanding, is that it is more or less a flat plane, and it has 4 realms. The center, I'm just going to call them worlds, but just keep in mind when I'm saying worlds, I'm not meaning like different planetary spheres. I'm meaning different realms upon the same plane. So the center world is in line with the polar axis that runs up through the entire cosmic egg itself. And that would be in the middle of what we think of as the North Pole. It's the smallest of the 4 realms, and it's also known as the Garden of Eden. And it is governed by Mercury, which is both a sun and a moon. Okay, the next world would be the one that we're in, and that's basically between the North Pole and the South Pole, although they're really not poles. And this world, as we know, is governed by the sun and the moon. And then the next world would be beyond the Arctic Circle. And I don't remember offhand which sun and moon govern that world. So I don't want to tell you wrong, but and then the next world beyond that world, also separated by a giant mountain range, would be the 4th world. And I do remember that Saturn is the sun that governs that world. So, very interesting that this lines up with the chakras, in that the Garden of Eden Again, this is from my understanding, and I might have to tweak some of it as I understand it better. But the Garden of Eden, or the middle world, also, this is the first place where physical incarnation happens. So the first place that you were a human was in the Garden of Eden. All right, and that corresponds to the heart chakra, the center. And it is interesting that it's only governed by one planetary body, Mercury, which is both a sun and a moon, which indicates that we were not yet divided to the extent we are divided now, where there's now male and female separate. And then as you go into the remaining 3 worlds, both governed by a sun and a moon, you get 6 more bodies, heavenly bodies, and you also have 6 more chakras, 3 above the heart and 3 below. And so this all correlates. And you can probably dive into your own meditation, research, and understanding to build upon this. I'm just kind of laying the basic framework of it. And some of you might have already heard it, and if you have, then this may not interest you so much, but if you haven't heard it, maybe this will interest you. Just begin to think about this, begin to ponder this, and then connect some of the dots that have not yet been connected. And all of this, mind you, all of these worlds, including space, the stars, all of it is contained within a torus field. And each of these worlds that I just described are contained within a torus field. So you could think of that as the Van Allen belt. So if you were to try to go from here to the moon, you would have to go through the Van Allen belt. Or to go to any of the other realms, you would have to go through the torus field that surrounds each world. So when we were source, before we became a fractal of source consciousness going out into the universe for experience, you could liken that to fallen angels, but not in the sense that you were evil or that you did something bad. This is not a bad or good scenario here. This is just a way of describing what has happened. So we had the ability to fly because we were etheric. We had etheric bodies, light bodies, and those are not dense. Those are not composed of what we think of as physical matter. And so you could think of it as you had wings in that sense that you could fly. But we were descending. See, that's the thing, is the journey from source to however far you end up going before you awaken and realize that you want to ascend, that you want to go back toward source. that you want to go back home, if you will. Right? So we were descending, and as we descended, we've come down through and experienced, I'm going to call them lives, but again, don't think in physicality yet. You're not in physicality until you hit the earth plane. But you did have experience. You did have life in the sense of whatever that means when it doesn't involve a body, a human body. And so we came down through the different governing bodies. So the outermost one would be Saturn, the sun of the fourth world, and the corresponding moon. So this is just speculation, but maybe if you were more prone to male energy or left brain, that you would have gone to the sun versus gone to the moon for the experience in your descent. And then you moved on to the next sun or moon of the third world. Then you moved on to the sun or moon of the second world, which is this world. Then you moved on to the singularity, if you will, of Mercury and the Garden of Eden. And now your experience is going to become human. And you're starting out in a wonderful, beautiful place where there isn't all this division. There isn't all this separation. And so now in the Garden of Eden, once we've moved from Mercury, the experience of Mercury, we move into physicality on the earth in the middle of the circle that makes the North Pole, what we call the North Pole. And we experienced human life there in perfection, in oneness, wholeness, balance. You could say we were at the center of the universe in that position. And then I speculate here that from that experience and from that world, you could choose to begin your ascension. See, I think once you become a human, then you, in any lifetime after you're a human, you can choose to ascend. You can choose to get on the path of ascension. If you don't, then you will continue to descend. And that's precisely what all of us here in the second world did. That's why we're here. That's how we got here. So we then went from the Garden of Eden, not into hell per se, but into a divided world, a divided self, a divided reality. And in this divided reality, we see it repeated over and over and over, so there's no doubt about it. Right? There's no doubt that there is male and female. There is no doubt that there is black and white. And many other examples of that same thing, which is duality. So we went from singleness to duality in our descent. Now here we are in the second world with this knowledge available, and it's always been available, and it's actually part of your DNA. It's part of your codes. It's all, if you will, written upon your heart. But see, if we don't ever get in touch with our heart, we're never going to come across this inner standing, this inner information. We're going to remain in duality, which is in the mind, the brain, again, split into two, with the masculine being the left brain and the feminine being the right brain. And notice that we have been for many years, thousands of years now, in this world, in this second world, in a patriarchy, which is male dominant, which puts God in a male stance, which puts males in charge of everything. And we can, yes, the feminist movement came along and women's rights came along, and I'm all for women's rights. I'm not for feminism at all, but I am for women's rights, basic rights, of course, everybody. It's human rights. It's not male or female, it's just human rights. But even with that movement and all that attempt to make the female equal to the male, it's just an illusion, because if males ever decided to overthrow women or something of this nature, well, it would just be very easy to do. The women wouldn't stand a chance. Right? We're bigger, we're more aggressive. If it came down to, killing or whatever, then we would wipe them out. Or they, I should say they. I would never think in those terms at all, but we're just looking at what's really kind of obvious here. So here we are in this dualistic reality, and the next stop would be the third world. Which we already talked about, that third circle on this plane beyond the Arctic ice wall. And so you can probably just imagine, what it would be like if we descended further into division, into the egoic mind state of dominance, control, and the like. I am guessing that that's what that next world would be like. It would just be an even worse version of this one. And this one's bad enough. But it's not, I use that word bad loosely because, again, this is about learning. So learning is not bad, right? Learning that fire is hot and can burn you is not evil or bad. It's bad if you get burned. Bad for the one that got burned. But it's not bad in the sense of the knowledge of burning is not bad. And so now we have the clear option to begin our ascent, our ascension. And so I think that that would involve traversing back the path that we fell. And so then where would our next stop be? It would be back to the Garden of Eden, back to the center world on this earth plane. Very interesting. I find it very, very interesting. And I've never, until recently, had it in my mind this clearly. And like I said, I don't have it. It's not completely. There's still some fog and some mist that's got to clear out, and I'm sure there's some more pieces to put together. But I can now visualize everything inside the cosmic egg, and everything has a place, and I see where it is. I see where the stars are. I understand how they are there. Here's something interesting: is that the planets, the suns and moons that we just went over, are also known as the wandering stars, because they're not actually up there in the I can't remember what it's called up there. I got firmament in my mind, and I don't think that's right. But in any event, you could think of all the stars being on a disc, if you will, at the top of towards the top of the egg. Right? And they're spinning. They're rotating around the axis that runs through the middle of this entire thing. So I don't know that the earth plane is spinning. I think that it just might be the stars, that disk. And so the planets, the suns and moons that we just went over, are below that disk. And so they don't quite move in conjunction or speed, I guess, as the stars do. And so they're different in that sense, because many of them look like stars from the distance they are from us. They certainly don't appear like our sun and moon do. So they appear like stars, but they don't move like the other stars. That's why they're known as the wandering stars. And again, there's 7 of these bodies, corresponding to 7 chakras. Everything without comes from within. It's the old as above, so below thing. So I believe our next stop, our next incarnation, for those that are ascending, is going to be the Garden of Eden, or what's known as the Garden of Eden. I'm not sure if that's actually what it's really called or whatever, but and then from there I speculate that we would then move on to the next sun or moon. And so here's a thought that just came to me. Maybe on the descent, we're coming through the suns, meaning we hit Saturn, whatever the next sun is, and then our sun, and then Mercury, and then physicality, and then you descend further from there if you don't wake up, or you begin your ascension back. Now, interestingly, what if it is that we take our bodies, now that we have ascended them, if you will, we've gotten the body in balance, purified, So who's to say that we wouldn't actually then, after having the incarnation in the Garden of Eden in the middle world, that we would not take the body with us as we begin our ascent. And it's neither here nor there whether we do or not. We're going to be conscious. We're going to have a light body. But it's just interesting to think that, what if we take these 5 based bodies with us on the ascension? And I've always felt that we do. I don't know why I feel that. I just do. So then we would begin, if my speculating here is right, we would begin our ascension, and we would then go through the moons. We would then have lives on each progressive moon, working our way back up. And then ultimately we're going to end up above the stars. And there's a couple, I think there's 3 layers above the stars. I don't remember what they are exactly. You could think of them as heaven, because that's just a good word to use to think of them. The heavenly realms, right? And then, so then I think a lot of people think, well, after that, and you continue your ascent, you merge back into source, and you're sort of dissolved as you. But I don't think that's right. I don't think that we are ever going to be dissolved to where we, as personalities, and it's hard to use language here because, I want to say individual. And we are individual, but we are individuals creating a whole, a complete. So once we get back to that source level, then I think that's when the egg breaks, if you will. It's metaphoric in that sense. The egg breaks, you hatch metaphorically from the cosmic egg and out into things that are beyond the imagination, meaning the things that exist outside of the egg, outside of this. And within this egg is everything that everything we've ever known of. From worlds to planets, stars, space, galaxies, everything. All of it is contained within a torus field, which the outermost one would be the shell, if you will, of the cosmic egg. And then we're going to break up out of that, go beyond that, and that's when we're true sovereign co-creators, and we can be trusted. See, why? Because we've gained the knowledge, we've gained the experience, we experienced all of it, all the layers, and we did the work of purifying, of what it takes to ascend, or you could say what it takes to stop the descent, what it takes to stop division and move back into unity. Let me see what my time is. 29. I better stop there. Love and light, friends. Hopefully this will be interesting to somebody. And leave a comment, why not? You're here, you got 29, almost 30 minutes of listening to this leave a comment. Let me know, what you think. And if you have something to add, if you have a piece of the puzzle, by all means, add it. I don't know everything for sure. Nobody does, but all of us together know a lot more than we do individually, right? So love and light. Till next time, leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.